Have you on the programme. We now move on over to Europe, and European Union leaders and leaders of the Nordic countries have expressed confidence that a financing agreement for Ukraine using frozen Russian assets can be reached by December of 2025. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is pushing for the EU to give a go-ahead to the plan at a leaders' summit in December. The statements were made at the Nordic Council Summit in Stockholm. Under international law, sovereign assets cannot be confiscated, so the European Commission has put forward a plan to allow EU governments to use up to certain amounts of assets without actually confiscating them. Thus far, Belgium remains the big holdout between the plan and its implementation, fearing that confiscating Russian assets to secure the loan could lead to legal challenges from Moscow. Given that the financial institution Euroclear is based in Brussels, Belgium could be left to shoulder the legal and financial liabilities of such lawsuits alone. Belgium's Prime Minister Bart de Wever has stated that his country would not agree to any such scheme unless a legal basis for such actions was presented by the committee. Let's listen in to what the leaders had to say.
Obviously, we didn't reach a conclusion last European Council, but we did take a major step, a necessary step, to be able to make that decision. And in this group, you can really count on that. We are very decisive on our will to make that decision on the European Council in December.
The war in Ukraine and Russia's reckless behavior at the Baltic Sea region have made our region a hotspot. This has changed our work in the European Union and our work amongst the Nordics. The small countries of this region know that we need to work together to be stronger. And this is what we have also discussed today.
Okay, we're now joined by Dmitry Simes Jr. He's the Sputnik India head, and he joins us live from the Russian capital of Moscow. Dmitry, of course, Nordic nations, especially Sweden, Norway, Finland and Denmark, have been the most per capita funders of Kiev, including, of course, the European Union. Is Moscow concerned that Europe as a whole continent, not just the US, is keeping Ukraine economically afloat?
Well, when it comes to the Europeans themselves, I think Russia understands that they have malicious intent and they want to drag on this conflict for as long as possible. But we also understand that Europe by itself can't keep the NATO proxy war in Ukraine going, because you look at European military industrial capabilities, they are minuscule without the United States. And even those weapon systems that they produce, they need a lot of components from the United States. And plus, overall, industrial production in Europe has gone down over the past few years, in large part due to its incredibly stupid and self-destructive decision to sanction affordable Russian oil, which by extension has made the entire cost of production for all of these weapons more expensive. Of course, you know, there already are European troops, European mercenaries fighting in Ukraine, and Russian troops have no problem dealing with them. I guess, you know, I want to comment about, you know, specifically the news that you headlined as Schoenwood, and that is about the European proposal to illegally seize Russian assets and send them to Ukraine. Now, this would be the latest in a series of suicidal European economic decisions, because I want to break down for your viewers what exactly this would entail in practice. So you mentioned Euroclear, and Euroclear is the largest European settlement and clearance organization. and it's the organization that holds most of the Russian assets that were frozen after the start of the Ukraine conflict. Now, Euroclear has offices around the world, including in many global majority countries. So it has offices in Bahrain, it has offices in Hong Kong, so on and so forth. If the Europeans go through with seizing Russian assets, Russian lawyers can go to, let's say, Hong Kong or Bahrain or wherever else and sue Euroclear, not only to recover all of the assets that were seized, but to get some additional damages. And there's a very good chance that the Europeans would lose in court. And so that would open the door to basically Russia seizing Euroclear assets all across the world. And that's why the Belgians are really so reluctant to push through with the suicidal idea, because they understand that this is a Pandora box proposition that can bring the entire European financial system crumbling down.
Okay, and of course, it says that this deal can be reached by December of this year. How are officials in Moscow, economists in Moscow, feeling at the possibility of that coming in?
Well, first of all, as I mentioned, I can assure you that Russian lawyers are, getting ready for that scenario, and that if the Europeans go through with this option, there's going to be a very tough battle in court that they will lose. The second point is that I would remind your audience members that there are hundreds and billions of dollars worth of European companies and assets that are still in Russia. Yes, despite all the sanctions, despite all the political condemnation, there are a lot of European businesses that have remained in Russia. And if the Europeans were to go through with seizing Russian assets, then Russia would be fully within its right to seize the assets of European companies in Russia. So regardless, Russia has more than enough options to make sure that the Europeans feel double the pain if they go through with this, with this strategy.
Okay, do stay with us, Dmitry. We have further news coming out of the region, where Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has called